Hey guys, this is Blue Eyes Master 91, and today I thought I would do a deck profile for how I built my Exodia deck, so let's get on into it. Obviously, for any Exodia deck, you need the 5 pieces of Exodia themselves. Not much to say. This is your auto win in the deck. That's about that. Next, I just put in 3 copies of Raw Disciple. Raw's Disciple is actually pretty useful in this deck because it, on summon, allows you to search out up to 2 more copies to summon them to the field, thus shrinking your deck by 2, which is kind of the goal of the deck, is to be able to draw more easily into Exodia. Then we have 3 copies of Witch of the Black Forest. Upon her death, she searches out a monster with less than 1500 defense to add to your hand, so she searches out one of your Exodia pieces. We then have a single copy of Sangin, who, upon his death, searches out a monster with 1500 or less attack points to add to your hand. So another one of your searchers for Exodia pieces. We have 3 copies of Nimble Mamanga. When he is destroyed, because you flip him over upon the attack going through and all that, his flip effect would activate, and you can summon out up to 2 more copies from your deck, and you also gain 1,000 life points. So he gives you life, and then he searches out 2 more monsters to help defend you. So another way to shrink down your deck. We have a single copy of Old Vindictive. Let's see if I can get a little bit. Yeah, there we go. An old Vindictive Magician. She is a flip effect monster that destroys a monster on the field. So she is basically a man-eater bug. We have a single copy of Skull Angel. When he's flipped, you get to draw a single card from your deck. And then one of my favorite monsters that gets overlooked in today's game is the Big Eye. Big Eye, upon being flipped over, allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck and rearrange them in any order you want. So he lets you get into draws that you want prior and can help you just seal away games. We have a single copy of Marsh Milan. This little guy can't be destroyed by battle, and when he's flipped over, he deals damage to your opponent. He deals 1,000 points of damage. Wait. Yeah, 1,000 points of damage. Okay. But making sure I was reading it right. We have a single copy of Spirit Reaper. He is another wall who cannot be destroyed by battle, but if you target him with a spell, I believe it's a spell, when this card is targeted by the effect of a spell, trap, or monster effect, this card destroys itself. And then if this card attacks your opponents directly, you get to randomly discard a card. So he's half of a delinquent duo. He allows you to have a wall up, and he will be likely the target of a lot of effects to get him off the board. We have a single copy of good old Kuribo, because what deck isn't complete without a Kuribo? And the best way to use him is to either go into Link Kuribo, or by discarding him from your hand to absorb battle damage. Next, we have a monster that most people probably haven't seen or used in a while, Fusha Notori. It is a spirit monster, and the reason I like this particular spirit monster is because when it attacks, you regain life points equal to the amount of battle damage. So if you're attacking directly, you're gaining 1,200 life points. And on top of that, he returns to your hand each and every turn. So, something different, something kind of fun. It's a good way to regain life and kind of just irritate your opponent, I feel like. And then we have our level 1 tuner monster, Flameveil Guard, who is just a 2k defender. So that is it on the monster front. Let's dive into the spells. First up, a card that will probably make a lot of people upset. Single copy of Mystic Mine. Mystic Mine is fantastic in this deck because your goal is to stall out your opponent while you're trying to draw the 5 pieces. Next, we have a single copy of Harpy's Feather Duster. Feather Duster just gets rid of back row, which is extremely nice to have in this deck. We have a single copy of Level Limit Area B. This continuous spell card forces all level 4 and higher monsters into defense. Unfortunately, it does not work on Xyz, Lynx, or anything that doesn't obviously have a level. But it's extremely useful in the deck because it helps just kind of slow your opponent down and force them into plays they normally wouldn't make to get around it. Then we have 2 copies of Dark Factory of Mass Production. This spell card allows you to recycle 2 normal monsters in your graveyard. So say you discard a piece of Exodia to use your monster reincarnation. Your Dark Factory can give you back that piece of Exodia. Next, we have a single copy of Swords of Revealing Light. To further stall your opponent for 3 turns, they cannot attack, and it forces all monsters in face-down defense position that they have into face-up defense. We then have 2 copies of Gravekeeper Servant. Just another really nice card to irritate your opponent. When your opponent attacks, they are forced to send the top card of their deck to the graveyard. Otherwise, they can't attack, so it forces them to rethink attacking at times because they don't want to lose a specific tech card, or they just don't want to risk losing something in their deck. Next is the copy of Reincarnation. Reincarnation is just a monster recovery card. Next we have Draw of Fate, which is a newer card that I put into the deck. If your life points are lower than your opponent's and your opponent controls a monster with the highest attack on the field, even if it's tied with something on your field or tied on their field, reveal 3 cards with different names from your deck. Place them on the top of your deck in a random order. Then draw 1 card. For the rest of this turn, after this card resolves, you cannot set spells or traps. You can only activate 1 more card or effect. You can only use this effect once per turn. I like Draw Fate because it lets you stack the deck, and that's kind of the whole premise of using it in this deck build. Next we have a copy of Card Advance. Card Advance is the spell card version of the Big Eye. It allows you to look at the top 5 cards of your deck, then place them on the top in any order. You can also tribute summon 1 monster in addition to your normal summoner set. And this is also a once a turn effect. So, between Draw of Fate and Card Advance, it's actually a really cool combo because you can stack the deck with Draw of Fate, and then you can further stack the deck with Card Advance. And for the last spell card in the deck, we have a copy of Raigeki, which is just your generic board wipe. So, that is it on the spells. Let's dive into the traps, and we do use a few of them. First, we have 2 copies of Legacy of Yatagarasu. This trap card allows you to draw a card from your deck. The second effect I've never actually been able to use because no one uses spirit monsters. Then we have a copy of Magical Cylinder. Magic Cylinder allows you to reflect an opponent's attack back at them. Next we have this trap card, Backup Soldier. Backup Soldier allows you to, while you have 5 or more monsters in the graveyard, you're able to target up to 3 non-effect monsters and add them back into your hand, as long as they have less than 1500 attack. So this is another way to get back Exodia pieces. Reincarnation is your only real way to get back your copy of Exodia's head. To further cheese off your opponent, we have a copy of Drop Off. This forces this card can only be activated during the draw phase. Once they draw their card, you activate this trap and it sends that card to the graveyard immediately. Next, we have our copy of Obliterate. Obliterate is just a staple in Exodia decks now, I feel like. It's a continuous trap. One of the few. You can target a monster on the field. Send one Exodia. One forbidden one or Exodia card from your hand or deck to the graveyard. And if you do, return that target to the hand. If this card is sent from the spell and shut card zone to the graveyard, you can target one forbidden one monster or Exodia card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. You can only use this effect once per turn and only once that turn. So Obliterate would be another way to get back Exodia's head if it happens to be in the grave. I personally would advise against sending it to the graveyard just because it is more difficult to get back into your hand. Next, we have a copy of Gravity Bind. This makes it so all level 4 or higher monsters cannot attack. So again, it doesn't work on Xyz and Lynx, but it does work on main deck monsters, fusions, and synchros. So just another kind of useful card to slow down plays and force your opponent to do different things than they usually would. We have a copy of Mirror Force as another board wipe. We have a copy of Dark Factory of More Production. This trap is kind of unique. You can send a monster from your hand or field to the graveyard to draw one card. You can only use this effect once a turn, so this is another way to draw. So by using Card Advance and Draw Fate in combination with this, you get a lot of draws out of it. And even Skull Angel, that'd be 3 draws. And then finally, to round out the main deck, we have a copy of Cemetery Bomb. I have won games with this deck because of this trap. Basically, you want to wait until as late as possible to activate it. But inflict 1,000 points of damage to your life points for every card in their grave. So this trap can close out games relatively easily because if your opponent has, let's say, 4,000 life points left and they have almost their entire deck in the graveyard, that can end the game. Or at least make it more in reach while you're trying to get to Exodia. And I know that there are a lot of decks out there that like to send cards to the graveyard by milling. So I'm looking at Light Swarms and even Burning Abyss that like to send cards from the deck to the grave. Moving on to my extra deck, we have a copy of Trish, Dragon Barrier, Ice Barrier, sorry. I have him in as just an option, and having an extra deck and with an Exodia deck just throws people off. So this is completely optional. I honestly really enjoy having him though because it's just fun. And I mean, you have one level 1 tuner and a bunch of lower level monsters. You're always going to be able to go into him as long as you have the right combination of levels on the field. I also run a copy of Blackwing Dragon, who is a level 7, so he's a little easier to get out. But again, I rarely go into either of these two monsters. And then a copy of Link Kuribo. Link Kuribo I've used a lot more than the other two, but I don't really go into my extra deck all that much regardless, so he's in here just if I need him to be there. But that is it for this Exodia deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you do, like and subscribe to the channel, and I will catch you guys later.